Do we really have time for self care as mums? What is it anyway? That is the focus of today's Happy Thriving Mums podcast. Hello and welcome to the Happy Thriving Mums podcast, the show that talks about the simple actions busy mums like you can take to prioritise your own happiness, health, and fitness. And it doesn't stop there. This show also includes amazing stories from inspiring women who help others to be the best version of themselves. Because if you feel great, you thrive, and so does your family. Let's get started. Hello, thanks for listening. Welcome to this week's Happy Thriving Mums. I want to start with a question. What does self-care mean to you? What comes to mind when you read about it or see it on social media or even just talk about it with your friends? What does self-care mean to you? To me, my first instinct is that it's quite an annoying term that's bandied around a lot by a lot of people saying that we should all be doing different things. I remember when my children were younger, like the toddling age, when they're like everywhere, falling over, everything is a danger, and you're permanently a little bit on edge. I felt that the idea of having time for self-care was just ridiculous. I barely had time to have a shower, which is just basic hygiene, let alone time for self-care and for paying any kind of actual attention to myself. I kind of thought it was a bit of a joke. I found it a bit insulting, and I just kind of thought that everybody was doing it apart from me. I just didn't have the time. I didn't have the capacity. It was just a ridiculous term that literally I couldn't do anything with. I mean, that was how I felt anyway. But now my kids are a little bit older, so they're now 5 and 7. And maybe I've got a little bit more time because they're a bit more independent, or at the very least, I've managed to, after those whirlwind early years of being a mum, I feel like I've got myself together a little bit more. I now carve out a bit of time in each day just for me. And I actually realise, and I've come round to the idea that self-care isn't a luxury anymore, it is essential. And I completely resonate if you are in the trenches at those early stages with little babies or children that don't sleep or whatever the challenges are. And I know challenges don't really go away as a mum, but I think they do change and get a little bit easier, and you can have a bit more time, especially when they're in school. That is a complete game changer. But I think it's just kind of a real necessity to help you thrive. I think when I was a mum in the early days, the idea of self-care, I kind of linked to what I did in my 20s. So those things when you're in your 20s, before children, feel kind of just fun. There's so much fun because you don't have the responsibility of children. You don't have the responsibility of making sure that everybody has got everything that they need all the time. So in your 20s, obviously, go and get your nails done a lot more. I'd go shopping for new clothes. I would go out. I would do all of these different things. And if you think about that, that is kind of your self-care. But you don't necessarily label it as self-care when you're that age. Although I think now the younger generations are much more into looking after themselves, setting boundaries, knowing what they should and shouldn't be doing, and actually living that little bit healthier. But for me, when I was younger, and also, as I said, in the early days of being a mum, the focus on this idea of self-care was an external thing. It was a focus on the external me, the outer edge that people saw, rather than what was going on inside. I really hope it changes, and I think it is changing. But growing up during the 90s and the noughties, the emphasis on how you looked, if you remember, what you dressed like, what you were wearing, where you were, and what you were doing was absolutely key. The focus on what you looked like was everything back then. And it was just plastered everywhere. So, I mean, I am so grateful in many ways that I did not have social media as I was growing up, because I'm not sure how I would have coped with it. So instead, I had things like Smash Hits magazine, where you'd look at all like the pop stars and what they were wearing, and all those other kind of like kids' teenage magazines, which you looked at, and you looked at like makeup tutorials and having makeup in a certain way, doing your hair in a certain way. Can you look like said pop star? Or even in the more kind of like slightly older fashion magazines around at that time, looking at the supermodels and what they were wearing and how they were dressing and what they were doing, and seeing the celebrity paparazzi shots in the headlines on the TV of all the newspapers which were around back then. That was the norm. And so I think that self-care was all about how you physically presented yourself in my head, more than actually looking inside and seeing what you can do to make you feel good about yourself. But as I've got older and become more comfortable in my own skin, I now realise that self-care is actually an inside job. I think now, to me, self-care is the process of checking in on yourself rather than looking outwards and looking at yourself on the outside. I mean, I listened to a really interesting podcast a couple of weeks ago, and it was by this lady, I think it was Jasmine Starr, who was talking about herself and how she feels quite often that she has to go out in what she called her armour. And I think that was like getting ready, looking a certain way to go out and work, because that's how she felt most confident, which I think is fascinating. And I think a lot of us, I know I do, I have my armour quite often when I go out. As a teacher, I've often said that being a teacher, it's an act. When you teach, you go out and you put on an act. You have to try and get the kids to do what you need them to do to learn effectively. You have to communicate with them and the other people that you work with in a certain way. And it might not be how you're feeling. On the inside, you might be exhausted, you might be sad, you might be having all these things going on in your life. But when you're teaching, you have to go out and teach in a way which is going to benefit the kids. And therefore, to me, to a degree, teaching has always been an act. So I guess in a way, when as a teacher, I've always put on my armour to go out and teach. And I think it's the same in kind of more everyday life. When I'm just around, or I go out, we go and visit friends, putting on your armour, making yourself look a certain way or feel a certain way is really important. But for me, the self-care part of that is checking in on yourself. And by doing this, it helps you to shine on the outside anyway. So it's almost like a 2-for-1 deal, I guess. I think you can view this in many ways, but generally, I think self-care is paying a bit more attention to yourself, whether it's physically, mentally, emotionally, or spiritually. It could even be just giving yourself permission to have a bit more fun. I think for me, I find that quite an alien concept sometimes, and I think many other mums might resonate with that too, because you can get so wound up in thinking about everything else that's going on that you are often the last thing on your mind. You are the last item on the list to allow yourself to enjoy whatever it is you are doing, and be in that moment. I think my previous view on self-care was a bit of a pressured one, that I had to be a certain way, I had to look a certain way, and I should be doing the same as everybody else. But actually, being more authentically ourselves and focusing on trying to spend more time, or at least a tiny chunk of our precious time, on doing the things that light us up, this is actually what self-care is and should be, in my opinion. And it doesn't have to be a long amount of time. I know time is one of our most precious commodities, but it is how we use our time. So even if you just take 5 minutes to do this, then it's going to make a massive difference. I think the other problem that I had with self-care, and to a degree still do have, is mum guilt. Mum guilt. I think every single mother has experienced this. The idea that I shouldn't be doing things for myself, it's selfish. I should not be spending time on making myself feel good, as I should be doing all the things for everybody else, because that's what mums do. I've learned to try to not adhere to this, and I still find this really, really difficult, but it always makes me think of the aeroplane oxygen mask analogy, that you need to put your oxygen mask on before you help anybody else. And I think it's so true, and I do think about that quite often and think that's the only way to save yourself in that situation. So therefore, why are we not doing this more on a daily basis? It's so important. Mums need to look after themselves, and we can also help other mums by looking after them too, and looking out for them and reminding others. And this is for the benefit not only of ourselves, but for the benefit of everybody else too. It is not selfish, it is essential. But it also does not have to be lavish. Just taking a little time each day to do something small for yourself can have an incredible effect. So I have, over the past few years, become one of those people with a routine that I do on a daily basis. And arguably, although I don't think I would call it this, it is my self-care routine. But now I just think of it as part of my day. It's just part of my daily life and it's what I do. So my routine that I do on a daily basis, I make sure I have at least these 4 things in my day at some point. These include exercising daily, trying to eat well, writing a gratitude journal, and also spending a little bit of time on my own. So the way that I manage to fit these things into my day is I do get up early, and I realise that this is not for everybody. But if you looked at your day, if you took a little bit of time just to write down what you do, because everybody has a routine, whether you're a stay-at-home mum, whether you're a work-at-home mum, whether you go out and work, whatever it is you do, everybody has a routine. And you can look at your routine, look at what you do, and look at it really honestly and think, actually, I can change that, whatever that is. It might be scrolling on your phone. It might be a little bit of tidying, which actually you don't need to do. You just do it because you feel you should. Take that out of your day and replace it with something for you. I guarantee you won't regret it. So the things that I do as part of my daily routine, I do because they make me feel like a better person. So then I can show up better for my family. They also help me to cope with the day that little bit better. I feel much more calmer and I feel much more reasonable. I mean, don't get me wrong, there are moments when I still explode and get annoyed with something that has happened in my house during the day. But I really truly believe that if I didn't do those 4 things as part of my daily routine, then I would be in a much worse state mentally, and that is good for nobody. Those things, especially the gratitude journal, I would say, help me to focus on the good in each day and help me to feel like I have done something for myself before I even take on doing a whole lot for everybody else. So it's really good. It's that kind of like, I can tick it off. I've got a sense of achievement. I've already done something early on in the day, which is just for me. And therefore, I don't feel annoyed by the fact that for the rest of the day, I'm really busy and I've got loads of things to do because I have taken that time to refill my cup, my energy levels, and really feel good about myself. So they help my mind, they give me energy, they give me a bit of peace, and now they are so ingrained in my day that I don't really think of them as self-care. They are non-negotiables. They are essential, and they are essential for me to thrive. I don't know if I had more proactively focused on these things in my life when my children are younger. I maybe might have found those early years less challenging. Maybe, I'm not sure, and I can't turn back time, so I'll never know. But for now, right now, they help me to move forward with confidence each day as I have a much more positive sense of self. So if, like me, you weren't really sold on the idea of self-care, I really think there's something in it. And I'd like to give you 3 things that you can try to put into your day, whether you call it self-care or not, up to you. But I really genuinely think that they will help you feel better and feel great so you can take on the challenges every day. So my first idea is for you to take a little bit of time. So this does take time, and I know time's precious, but I really promise you, if you do this, you will feel great and you'll be able to carve something out which works for you. So think about what are the things that you can do in your day that genuinely make you feel good. As I said before, these do not need to be lavish. Is it a cup of tea first thing in the morning before everybody gets up? Get up a little bit earlier and drink that tea. Drink it hot, drink it uninterrupted. What bliss will that give you? Oh, what a dream. Is it taking an extra 5 minutes before you go to bed normally and read? There's maybe a book that you've been meaning to read, or you want to listen to an audio book or something like that. Giving yourself 5 minutes to do that, how would that make you feel? How would that kind of enrich your life? Would it be going to the gym? Would it be going and getting a manicure once a month? Whatever it is, come up with a list. Then look at your list and decide on 2 or 3 of them, or just to start with, if you feel it's all a bit too much and that mum guilt is getting to you, or you don't feel you've got time for loads of stuff, pick one thing. Make it a non-negotiable that you will try and fit into every single day. If you don't feel that you can do it every day and that's too much for you, try and do it once a month so that you have got that time carved out for you, and you know that that is your little bit of space in this chaotic world to kind of gain that little bit of time for yourself. Then think about how by doing this, how will it make you feel? And remember that feeling. Remember that positive feeling. Just sitting there, drinking a cup of tea on your own for 5 minutes, having some nice peace and quiet. It can be so calming and so, I know I was going to say life-changing. I mean, it can be. Just to have a little bit of peace and quiet, it can really change your whole mindset for the day. So really remember that feeling and then follow it. My second idea is to plan and schedule. I know some people like to be spontaneous. I've never really been one of those people, but I think as a mum, spontaneity is very unusual. There is a lot of routine as a mum, isn't there? There's so many routines going on in my household, and I know from talking to friends and seeing other people, there is a lot of routine around kids. Getting the kids to clubs, to school, when we have to go to work, all of those things. Sometimes it's like a military operation and it has to be run with military precision. Otherwise, child one, child two wouldn't be at the right club at the right time in the right place. This military precision you should try and implement for your non-negotiables. So if you do decide to take that time to make a list of non-negotiables in your life and you come up with one or two, plan them. Plan when you are going to do them and stick to it. Put them in your calendar on your phone. If you've got an old school calendar hung up somewhere in your house, that's what I've got, so I can see it every day. It's right in front of me, right there. Plan it in, block it in, make them part of your routine. Get your partner on board as well, so they know what you are doing, why you are doing it, and when you're doing it. And make sure that you then go about doing your non-negotiables. If there's a bit of kind of questioning by your partner, maybe encourage them to do the same. Say to them, what one thing would you like to have the time to do in the day? And obviously it doesn't need to take longer than 5-10 minutes. I mean, half an hour, whatever you want to choose to decide. But try and give them the opportunity to do it as well, because then you've got kind of that shared experience of giving yourself time to kind of regenerate yourself so that you're better for everybody. And I really think it's so important. Even if one of the things that you do and you schedule is to block out 1 hour a month, so out the whole entire month, where you meet with a friend and go for a walk or go for a coffee, it could just be the reset that you need to help you feel more like you again. My final idea for you is to start small. Okay? If all of this sounds a bit much, and like my thinking of it back when I was like with my tiny children, and I was thinking self-care, no chance, no thank you. Start small. If making a list and blocking out regular scheduled time for yourself all seems too much, make it less formal. Take 5 minutes each day to go for a walk around the block for a mental reset. Sit down and watch a movie with your kids. I mean, you can do this with your kids. That is self-care as well. Just by taking time to sit and have a cuddle, that is sometimes one of the things that you need. And it is just so nice to do it. And it's quite calm. It's lovely. You can also, and I do this quite a lot, sometimes I'll sit and watch a bit of TV with the kids, but I'll shut my eyes for 10 minutes and have a little nap. And that is incredible. Just see if you can take a few minutes each day just for you and see how it makes you feel. See how it changes your mood. See how it makes you feel enabling yourself to take on the challenges of the day. Think sometimes, what can I do right this second to make myself feel great? Or even just to make myself feel a little bit better. It might just be going into another room and taking some deep breaths for a minute. That can be incredible self-care and an incredible way to just kind of center yourself and allow you to take on more of what's going on around you. I promise you that you won't regret it. So remember, self-care, or whatever you want to call it, is not selfish. It is essential for you to thrive. If you'd like a few ideas on what you can do to help you take that few minutes a day, a month, whatever, however frequently you choose, I have created a self-care cheat sheet for you in case you'd like a few more ideas on what you can do to help you reset physically or mentally or emotionally. See the link in the show notes. Thank you for listening, and do take some time to prioritise yourself this week. I know you won't regret it. Have a lovely week. Thank you for listening. Bye-bye.